Antoine Winfield Jr. is the only player ruled out for the Bucs, but may not be the only key player missing this game. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome into this live preview episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or view every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at @JYarcho_Bucs, host of the show, and here with you every Monday through Friday, along with the everydayers. And for that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. This episode is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost and it's easy to get started. Keys to victory and predictions coming up in a little bit, but let's start with the injury news. And that, of course, means Antoine Winfield Jr. is the only player officially ruled out for Sunday's game against the Cowboys, but there are some guys whose statuses are up in the air. The good news is that Mike Edwards and K.J. Britt are trending up. They have a chance to play Sunday night. Edwards is currently listed as questionable. Britt is listed as doubtful, but Todd Bowles spoke with the media after practice on Friday, and he said, quote, "They've come along. KJ will wait and see on Sunday. Mike has come along, so he looks like he's trending in the right direction. I'll see how he feels tomorrow," end quote. Now, as well as J.J. Russell played last week, even if Britt is able to go, I can see a situation where Russell gets the bulk of the snaps, but Britt would come in certain situations and provide rotational depth. That would allow Russell to try and build off of last week's performance while also using a little bit of load management for Britt so that they're not pushing him too hard, too fast. As for Mike Edwards, I think obviously he would be the more impactful player to return, and his return honestly would be pretty huge for this Buccaneers defense. You have Christian Izien and Kayvon Merriweather, who both played really well last week. Ryan Neal can be a rotational guy that can come in and contribute as needed. He actually played pretty decently against the Chargers last week, but having Edwards back would provide a boost to the back end of the defense. Much like with Britt, I can see the Bucs using Edwards situationally where he's in on third downs. He's in there on sure passing situations and really just allow him to sit back and be a ball hawk. I don't think they would thrust him in as a starter immediately, especially given how well Izien and Merriweather played last week. I think they would be content to stick with those two guys as the starters and work Mike Edwards in as needed. Let Izien and Merriweather do more stuff, like crashing the box, blitzing, playing closer to the line, dropping in coverage, all those things that they did against Los Angeles last week. And then for Edwards, you just want him back there playing center field, trying to make plays on the ball, trying to get it away from the Cowboys, undercutting some of these routes, some of these throws from Cooper Rush. Regardless, his return is a big step in the right direction down this final stretch of the season. Now for the bad and somewhat concerning news. Cade Otton is listed as doubtful with a knee injury. I was texting with the insiders the other day that Cade Otton had missed the portion of practice open to the media. He was wearing a knee brace, but if he misses this game, that's a huge blow to the Bucs offense. Todd Bowles told the media that he will be a game-time decision. Otton has been such an important part of what the Bucs have been able to do. He's a third down guy. He's a red zone threat. He is one tough dude. He is not afraid of hard contact when he's making catches over the middle. We have seen him time and time again take brutal hits and hold on to the football to make big plays. The Bucs don't really have a receiving threat at the tight end position if he's out. Payne Durham has improved over last year, but he's nowhere close to the receiver that Cade Otton is. Keefe, you all know this. He is more of the blocking tight end. Devin Culp had some flashes in preseason, but he's been active like once this year. Didn't get a target. I don't even remember if he got more than like 2 or 3 snaps. That puts a lot of pressure on Mike Evans. Jalen McMillan, I talked about it on Wednesday's show, has stepped up over the last few weeks, but he still isn't a guy that the defense is overly concerned about yet. Defenses come into these games against the Bucs saying, we got to stop Rachaad. We've got to stop Bucky. We've got to stop Mike Evans. We've got to stop Cade Otton. So there's a lot of pressure on Evans now because he is going to face nonstop double coverage until someone else on the team steps up and proves that they're a threat. Is that going to be J-Mac? Is it going to be Shep? Is it going to be Palmer? This is a really tough situation in a game that the Bucs still really need to win. It's great that they got the win against the Chargers. Don't get me wrong. We were all hyped about that. But you still need to win this game. I had stressed leading up to the Chargers game how important these NFC matchups are. You cannot afford to give the Falcons the hope that they can steal the division away. They are going through a quarterback change, and they might just be energized by Michael Penix Jr. getting the start over Kirk Cousins this week. If they beat the Giants and the Bucs lose, now Atlanta's right back into first place, and the Bucs are no longer in control of their own destiny. So who is going to fill that Otton role that he has played to perfection ever since Chris Godwin and Mike Evans went down against Baltimore? I hope it's J-Mac. I really do. But I don't think we're going to get a true answer to that question until Sunday night, if we get an answer at all. The Buccaneers had 11 more players on the injury list. None of them had game designations. They're all going to be good to go, so I'm not going to run down the entire list. As far as the Cowboys are concerned, a little help for the Bucs coming in the form of cornerback Trayvon Diggs being ruled out of this game with a knee injury. Diggs, of course, is a playmaker. He's one of the more dangerous players on that Dallas defense. So him missing the game certainly helps the Bucs offense out. They will also be without wide receiver Jalen Brooks, who's also dealing with a knee injury. Questionable for the Cowboys, guard TJ Bass. He was downgraded from a limited participant on Thursday to a did not participate on Friday with a thigh injury. It is not usually a good sign if a player or for a player to be active on Sunday when they're downgraded at practice from a Thursday to a Friday. That generally leads to them missing the game. Not always, but something to keep an eye on. Then also questionable, you have linebacker Eric Kendricks, cornerback Jordan Lewis, safety Wanye Thomas, linebacker Nick Virgil, and interestingly enough, edge rusher Micah Parsons. Parsons is expected to play, but he popped up on the injury report on Friday that he's battling an illness. Jerry Jones said on local Dallas radio that he's dealing with a flu. Flus are a tricky thing. He may still be laid up on Sunday, or he may be recovering and be well under 100%. You all have dealt with the flu. I've dealt with the flu. It usually takes a little bit of time to really get your legs back under you. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on over the weekend. I would check social media, check out those reports on if there's anything going on new with Micah Parsons. Going to jump into the chat real quick. Bantry said, isn't Cam Johnson back this week? No, he is not. He has not been activated from injured reserve yet. His practice window is still open. He is ruled out. He's not going to be activated for this game. I would expect that happens next week against the Carolina Panthers. A lot of people saying that they agree with Noah. What did Noah say? Noah says, never good when the national media is singing the Bucs praises. Yeah, that's usually the kiss of death. If you are a Buccaneers fan, I mean, how many times have we seen like national media all pick the Buccaneers to win, and then they end up getting boat raced in that particular game? So you better hope that Jason Garrett is going to pick the Cowboys to win on Sunday Night Football, so it's not going to be a clean sweep there. The Bucs should be fine. Taking a look at the biggest key for each side of the ball, that is next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. It's the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players leaves in the first half and doesn't return. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quickly as 15 minutes. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL, all lowercase, all one word, to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You do not need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. It's that time of year. The college football playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern. Leading into our first matchup, the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every single day. Talking about the keys to this game, and I saw Danny in the chat. I love this. Danny, you're the best. Run, 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 and if we stop these interceptions, pressure, rush, and we have 3 sacks in 3 consecutive games, keep it up. Don't let up. Danny, you nailed it. My offensive key to the game, pound the rock. I talked about it on the crossover, but for those that didn't see it, I'm going to go over it again. I do recommend you go back and check out the crossover episode with myself and Marcus Mosher of Locked On Cowboys. But the Buccaneers are averaging 5.2 yards per carry this season. Over the last 3 games, they're averaging 5.9 yards per carry. On the road, they're averaging 5.7 yards per carry. This is the bread and butter of the Bucs offense. And with Bucky Irving closer to being 100% than he was the last few weeks, it is vital that the Buccaneers keep the ball in his and Rachaad White's hands in this one. For starters, it's going to help neutralize the Cowboys pass rush that has 42 sacks on the season. That is the 4th best in the NFL. Know what they can't do when you're running the ball down their throats? Sack Baker Mayfield. And believe me, you can run the ball down their throats. Dallas is allowing 4.5 yards per carry over the last 3 games, and they have allowed over 5 yards per carry at home this season. That's what the Bucs need to exploit on Sunday night. Use Bucky, who is now 148 yards away from 1,000 rushing yards on the season. Use Rachaad White, who is averaging 4.5 yards per carry over the last 5 games. Use Sean Tucker, who is clipping off over 6 yards a carry thanks to some big runs of over 30 yards each this season. Use those guys. Use that offensive line that has been mauling opposing defensive lines at the line of scrimmage and opening up those run lanes. Just wear Dallas out. I'm not saying that Baker shouldn't throw the ball, but lean into the strength of the offense since coming out of the bye, especially when that strength exposes the weakness of the defense that you're going against. The strength of Dallas's defense is getting to the quarterback and bringing him down. They have 12 interceptions on the season. That's tied for the 6th most in the league. So you're talking about a defense that is top 4 in the NFL on sacks. They are top 6 in the NFL in interceptions, but they're allowing over 5 yards a carry in their own house. Run the ball. We all want to see it. We want to see Bucky finally break off that 40 or 50-yard touchdown run. We want to see Rachaad continue to build on what he's done the last couple of weeks that have helped the Bucs offense control these games. That's the strength right now. It exposes Dallas's weakness. It prevents Dallas from being able to utilize their strength. That is how you win this game. Defensively, it's the complete opposite from the offense. It's all about keeping the Cowboys from doing what the Bucs need to do. The Bucs are allowing 4.5 yards per carry this season, and the Cowboys have themselves quite the running back in Rico Dowdle. Do you all remember a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about Bucky Irving being among the top running backs in the NFL in rushing success rate? You know, that's that whole thing where you get 40% of the yards needed on first down, 60% of the yards needed on second down, 100% of the yards needed on third and fourth downs. That is what equates to a successful rush. Do you know where Rico Dowdle stands in terms of his rushing success rate this season? He's the number 1 running back in the league. He is the 3rd best player, the 3rd most successful rusher in the NFL behind Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels. He is the top running back with a rushing success rate of 58.8%. On the road, you cannot let the Cowboys control the tempo and run the ball up and down the field. You have to be able to find a way to get them into 3rd and long situations so you can bring that pressure to Cooper Rush and get him to the ground. Pressure him the way you pressured Justin Herbert last week. Something else that I mentioned on the crossover is that Cooper Rush doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. He's really, really good about that, but he fumbles a ton. He's got 9 fumbles in the last 7 games. In one of those last 7 games, he didn't fumble at all. So you're talking about 9 fumbles over the course of 6 games. If the Cowboys are able to just run Rico Dowdle all night long, the Bucs are not going to have a chance to pin their ears back and bring the pressure on Rush, getting either a sack, creating a turnover, or getting off the field to force a punt. Yes, the Cowboys have CeeDee Lamb. Yes, they have Brandon Cooks. But first and foremost, the most important thing that you can do defensively in this game is stop Rico Dowdle, because this Cowboys offense goes as far as Rico will carry them. You bring that pressure against Cooper Rush, he's going to have bad errant throws. You have Mike Edwards sitting back there, if he's active, being able to be a ball hawk. You have Tyke Smith, who just continues to find ways to intercept the football. You have Zion McCollum, who is still looking to get back on track in terms of interceptions. You can force bad passes that this secondary can take away. But it all starts up front and not letting Rico Dowdle get ahead of steam and start clipping off these big chunk runs. He is the most successful running back in the NFL this season, which makes it all the more confusing as to why it took Dallas so long to go to him full time. But you have to show shades of that dominant Buccaneers run defense this week and stop him dead in his tracks. That's the key. You run the ball effectively and you stop Dowdle from running the ball effectively, and the Bucs will come away with a win on Sunday night if they accomplish those things. Going to jump into the live chat once again. Narav says, imagine 200 plus yards on the ground from this team. Again, I don't know how many games they have of over 200 yards rushing as a team. I want to say it's like 4 this season, but they've been absolutely fantastic. Danny says, Bucky and Rachaad on the fast turf in Dallas, like in LA, should explode for long runs. That's what we're hoping for. Again, you're in prime time. You are on the road. You control the clock. You control the tempo. You wear down that defense by running the ball. That's what's going to open things up for Mike, who a lot of you are hoping has another big day so that he inches so much closer to that 1,000-yard mark. Prediction time is coming up next. Start dropping your player, your bold, and your score predictions in the chat. We are going to get to that next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. History, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Did you study these things in school? Probably not, but even if you did, it might be time for a refresher. Time and technology have changed a lot of things, but they have not changed basic fundamental truths about the world and our place in it. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, yes, free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution, Introduction to Free Market Economics, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, and a personal favorite of mine, Mark Twain, Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, and selected short stories. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. You can even go deeper with the readings, the quizzes, discussions, or just sit back and enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/locked-on to enroll. There is no cost and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/locked-on to register. hillsdale.edu/locked-on. Wrapping things up here on a live preview episode of Locked On Bucs. And real quick, I'm going to jump into the chat before I even give my predictions, because this is one of the most wild things I have ever seen. We got Joe in the chat, says Bucky Irving jumping into the Salvation Army kettle. I'm going to go ahead and say that's probably not going to happen. My boy Chase Brown from the University of Illinois, he jumped into the Salvation Army kettle and he got fined a significant amount of money for doing that. But I love where your head's at. And then Bantry, out of this world prediction, Neal gets an interception. That in and of itself is completely wild. And then he says Sean Tucker has over 100 total yards. I do love that. I'm going to drop my predictions. I'll get back to the chat to get to all of yours, but I'm going to start off with my predictive player of the game, and it's Bucky Irving. I can't talk about how much the Bucs need to run the ball, how well they should be able to run the ball, and how they'll win if they run the ball, and not predict that one of these running backs is going to be the player of the game. Bucky looked absolutely fantastic last week. He didn't look like the injury was bothering him at all. Full participant at practice on Friday, so he is ready to roll and keep doing what he's done all year long. He is going to set and maintain the tone in this game and have a big night. That brings me to my bold prediction. I am doubling down on Bucky Irving. My bold prediction, Bucky hits the 1,000-yard mark this week. Bucky is going to get the 148 rushing yards that he needs against the Dallas Cowboys to be the first 1,000-yard rusher in Tampa since 2015, when Doug Martin ran for 1,454 yards. Rachaad was real close last year. He was 10 yards away. But Bucky is going to get it done this year, and he's going to do it under the bright lights of prime time. Score predictions. Evan Klosky literally just texted me. I check with him to see if he's sticking with his score predictions, and I asked, are you sticking with Bucs winning this one 30-20? He says, I am. And then he said, buckle up. Otton is a bummer with the shrug emoji. So that is the update from Evan Klosky here live on the show. And look, since 2023, the Baker Mayfield era, we will call it, since the Mayfield era began, this is the 6th primetime game that the Buccaneers have had. They are 0-5 in primetime. We all remember the heartbreaker against the Buffalo Bills when there was very, very obvious pass interference on the Hail Mary at the end on not just one player, but two. I mean, Godwin was basically tackled, and then I believe the other one was Cade Otton. He got shoved, and the ball falls incomplete. The Bucs should have had an untimed down from the 1 yard line. Who knows if they score in that situation, but it would have been nice to get a very obvious call in that one. You had the debacle against the Atlanta Falcons, where the Bucs looked like they had the game won. They thought they had the game won. They implode. They lose in overtime. You have the primetime heartbreak against the Baltimore Ravens when you lost not just Mike Evans in the first half of that game when he aggravated that hamstring injury, but you lost Chris Godwin for the rest of the season. You had another overtime heartbreaker where the offense didn't even get to touch the ball against Kansas City in Arrowhead when they played their hearts out. This is the time. This is the prime time game that ends that streak. The Bucs are going to get a win in prime time in Jerry World against the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to do it on the backs of Bucky Irving, Mike Evans, and Vita Vea. You know, I talked about stopping Rico Dowdle. Vita Vea plays a huge role in that. They're going to do it on the back of Levante David, who has been playing out of his freaking mind for the last 3 weeks. I'm going to take the Bucs to win this one 31-17. All right, let's jump into the chat. Let's see what you guys are predicting here. Narav, he says 28-17 Bucs, and the Bucs get 5 or more sacks. We got Tom. He says 24-21 Bucs, annoyingly close. Mike goes over 100. We got Zoe in the chat saying 40-16. They hang back-to-back 40 burgers. I on the road in both games. I don't know what to do. Yeah, I would be amazed and thrilled to talk about a team that had back-to-back 40 burgers. We got Joe says Mike needs 150. He doesn't quite need 150. It would certainly help. He needs to average, I think it's 82.5 yards per game the rest of the season to reach that 1,000-yard mark. We got Edwin, 31-17 Bucs. So, hey, Edwin, you and me right there, buddy. We are in this together. We've got It's Levy Gaming, 38-20 Bucs. Lakita says 31-21 Bucs. And then says Bucky for a lot. Zoe might have the most bold prediction of anyone, saying Jamel Dean 2 picks. He's barely good for 1. I don't know if he's going to get 2 in a game, but I'll tell you what, Zoe. I'll tell you this. If the Bucs hang 40 and Jamel Dean gets 2 interceptions in this game, I am sending you my Buccaneers ice shaker. How about that? All right. So if the Bucs hang 40 and Jamel gets 2 picks, you come in here, we're going to coordinate, and I will send you my ice shaker. All right. Let's see. Richard says prime time or not, the Bucs need to win. Absolutely. We got Danny says Bucs 38-20. Can't wait for Sunday, but not looking forward to listening to Collinsworth. None of us are. None of us want to hear Chris Collinsworth. In fact, real quick, how much time do we have left? We got about a minute left. Very quickly, everybody, rapid fire over under 4.5 mentions of Patrick Mahomes in a game that doesn't involve Patrick Mahomes from Chris Collinsworth. Let me see what you got. Christopher says Bucky with 170 yards. We got Sam. Bucs have been unbeatable in December. They win big 40-7. We got Noah says over. Narav says over. Everybody says over. We got Tom with an easily over. All right. Yeah. Danny says over by halftime. Let's see. Oh, and yeah. And then Sam says lots of Mahomes ankle chat. I swear he fakes these injuries just for the added attention. But that is going to do it for this episode of Locked On Bucs. Thank you so much for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every day. Now make your second listen the new Locked On NFL. It's 2 shows every day. You got the Madman Tyler Rowland. You got Tony Wiggins there at the barbershop. Everything that you need to know about the NFL in 30 minutes. Check it out at the new Locked On NFL on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Check out everything going on over on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at @JYarcho_Bucs. Make sure you are subscribed on YouTube with those notifications turned on. Zoe, I'm talking to you so that way you don't miss these lives. If you have the notifications turned on, you know every time I go live. And, of course, make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcast platform. And you can become a Locked On Bucs insider, one-on-one text conversations with me. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Want to thank you so much for joining me right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.